hour. Woo! I am as excited, if not more, than y'all. So, all right, I just want to. I want you to go. Let me ask you guys a question. When it comes to the CD, this CD on the closing disclosure, we were talking about repairs and stuff like this. I want you to answer. I want you to send a thumbs up or a thumbs down to Tim. If I'm the seller and I've done, let's say the repair request comes up like this, like you got here, and I got 5 different contractors totaling $3,000 of repairs. Okay, everyone tracking with me? $3,000 worth of repairs. It's end of due diligence. Is getting ready to get closing. Does the seller? I want you to send Tim a thumbs up or down. Thumbs up, the seller has got to send those to the attorney to be on the closing disclosure. Thumbs down, the seller does not have to post that on the closing disclosure. 10 seconds, go ahead and just thumbs up, thumbs down. Thumbs up, needs to be on the closing disclosure. Thumbs down, no to the CD.
So far, we got mostly no. We got a few. Yeah.
So no's, mostly no's, mostly no's. Why? So why do you think, Tim, they're saying no? Why do y'all think you don't need to put that on a closing disclosure?
Maybe because they think that's a transaction that's handled outside of the real estate transaction.
Okay, so one of the things is it's handled outside of the transport. Like, do y'all remember the HUD where it used to be POC? Remember like 0.6 font would be in the CD or the HUD is it paid outside of closing? Well, was this paid? Question, Tim. Was it paid outside of closing? Answer.
See.
So.
Yes.
Yes. Good. Right. Yes. So it's paid outside of closing. So the seller's paid outside of closing. Now I know this is another thing that's going to blow your mind because I just know from our agents and the transactions that are out there, the seller has spent $3,000. Is that part of this transaction? Answer is?
Depends.
No. Is this?
No,
go ahead. I'm going to give you another try. If the seller spends $3,000 during this transaction.
Oh, during the transaction.
Yeah.
So you're implying that a 2T was executed. So I'm
yeah.
Not before.
You're covering good. You're covering good. So we're under. Oy vey, it's getting to be the last hour. So it's the last. We're under contract.
The dynamism we want to provide.
We're under contract. Seller does due diligence. Does $3,000. We're getting near the end. The reason why people might not think of it going on to the closing disclosure is like, we've never done it before. Why would the seller's $3,000 need to be on the closing disclosure, right? So why do you think, is it going to blow you away where I say to you, it needs to be on the closing disclosure? And obviously, it should blow most of you because most of you said it shouldn't be on there, is it needs to be on the closing disclosure. Why does it need to be on the closing disclosure, do you think? If it's part of the transaction. Guys, what is the closing disclosure in general anyway? Jump in.
It's a snapshot of the transaction overall for posterity. If anything would happen down the road and they want to come back and look at everything, every nickel back and forth on both ends of the transaction.
That's exactly. It's an accounting of the transaction. You're dealing with a large purchase, right? I said it's not like a bag of M&Ms that we're buying here. We got a large purchase. Most of the time it's going to be finance. Finance, 80% of the time it's going to be government backed, right? So people want to know, think about it. If you were loaning out $400,000 to your brother, sister, child, wouldn't you want to know what was being spent on that particular item? Wouldn't you want to know, like, hey, they spent $4,000 on roof repairs? Wouldn't you want to know, since you were lending that out, what that asset is that's being held as collateral? So that's what we're doing. What we're doing is we're saying, hey, cool that you spent $3,000 on repairs, seller. Just tell us you spent $3,000. right? And so remember now we've got 5 columns on the CD, right? 2 for the buyer, 1 of those is paid outside of closing. 2 for the sellers, 1 of those paid outside of closing. And then you got the 5th one, which says paid by someone else. So in this, on the CD, you're going to send, and here's the thing, y'all. Thing is, all parties need to know. All parties need to know. So the seller, right now I want you to think, because I already know what you all are thinking about, is that the seller spent $3,000. Then you got the lender. You got the lender over here. And the lender's going to be like, I don't need to know about those repairs. Because why? I just told you that that seller spending $3,000 is got to send that to all interested parties. All interested parties. Who are those? Buyers, sellers, both agents, attorney, and the lender. Right? Got to have them all. Send it. Take the receipts, all 3,000, say, hey, attorney put $3,000 paid outside of closing for repairs. Whether you put, the names of all the different contractors who are on there, or you just put outside repairs on it, doesn't matter. $3,000 is spent. We've got taken care of the accounting part. Now, flip side is you got the lender over there going, look, I don't need to know about any of this. Now, why are they saying that, Tim?
Because they want to make sure this loan proceeds, and they don't want to have any exposure when it comes to what might be right or wrong with that property.
That's right. And now here's the thing. Here's the thing. Is that lender, that guy who you're talking to, the one who you're sending to, is that the one who's actually, is he taking his wallet out and giving out $400,000? No. That person is a rep. And sometimes some of these reps, you all saw the movie The Big Short, right? Some of the time, some of these reps aren't as reputable. I'm not saying they're all are. I'm not trashing the entire industry, but let's just say you have that other agent out there, that loan officer who says, I don't want to know about it. I've had that happen. I've had it happen to myself. Had floor repairs getting ready to be done, a flood. We thought that the dishwasher had overflowed. Water repair damage on it, and the lender says, look, I don't want to know about it, Steve, because we know about it, then this is going to hold up the loan. And so what is the interest of your mortgage guy at that particular point? Who is that person representing at that particular point? When he says, Tim, I don't want to know anything about it, what is he actually saying? You had already said it. I don't want to know about it because it's going to put a wrinkle in getting this thing closed on that day. And here's the thing you got to think about. Nobody cares that it's going to put a wrinkle in it, other than, yeah, it's going to put a wrinkle and it's going to close. Maybe it delays it, it doesn't. At the end of the day, it's a material fact. And who wants to know? The person who's lending the money. They want to know, hey, you had $4,000? Cool, all right, that's cool. If it means it's going to close another day or two later, that's cool. We just got to know about it. Remember, the CD is nothing. It's not telling you how much money to make. It's not telling you how much money to spend. It's just saying, everything is about transparency. We just want to know, here's the money. Just lend the money. Just tell us how you're doing it. How much money you get paid. I don't care how much money. Just tell us how much you're getting paid. You're going to get bonus? Don't care about it. Just tell us you're going to get a bonus money. That's all that is about. Same thing goes. So you're going to send it to the lender. And here's what you're going to do. You're going to send it to the lender because you don't want to be caught up in anything like loan fraud or anything like that. You're going to send it to the lender. And if the lender does whatever they need to do, it's up to them. Right? I'm only caring about you guys right now, the real estate broker. Send it to the lender. Now the lender, now you got a buyer. A buyer goes and does, think about this now, y'all. Buyer goes out and spends money on a home inspection. Right? Spends money on whatever, other things. Let's just say they spend $500 on inspections, right? Pest and termite, whatever kind of stuff, $500. Does that money, send it to Tim, thumbs up, down, does that money need to be on the closing disclosure? The money the buyer spends outside of closing.
Lots of yeses.
Y'all right. Y'all right. Y'all got it. If it's going to be on the seller side, the buyer side has got to do it as well. All we want to know, all everybody wants to know is just, where's all the money going? One of the things that we learned from the 2008 and the recession stuff is like, we didn't have transparency. And that's all this is about. Just getting it all on paper. Just make sure everyone knows what's happening, which includes the bank, the federal government, whoever's doing the loan, whoever's buying the house. We just want it all out. And I want to bring your attention to page 47. Page 47 at the top. Just in case some of you are like, Steve, you're just making this stuff up on the fly. It says, for instance, talking about inspections and compensations. And it says, at the top it says, in such case, the broker should ensure that the inspection appears on the settlement statement and is noted as a paid outside of closing item. Okay, guys? So everything, anything of these expenditures. Now, let me tell you, it's at the time that it goes under contract. I want to be clear on this, that it goes under contract. So if the seller is doing, let's say you get a listing agreement and then you got a marking date out, right? So you do a marking date, it's a couple of weeks out because you want to get it all ready. And they spend, a couple $1,000 painting, refurbishing. That does not need to be on a closing disclosure. That's done outside of the transaction. What we're talking about is if it goes under contract today, that money spent during that period of time to the time that we close, that's what's got to be on the CD. All right? Everyone good? Any questions? Jess, Tim? Anyone? Any, guys? Yes, Jess?
There was a question in the chat. Would you suggest the seller not have work performed prior to accepting an offer so as to be able to put expenses on the CD?
Say that one more time for me, Jess.
Would you suggest the seller not have work performed prior to accepting an offer so as to be able to put expenses on CD?
Well, I like any transaction, I think. Thank you for the question. Any transaction, I think, is going to be individually based of whether someone needs to be done, whether it needs to be done prior or after it goes under the transaction, under a transaction. Meaning, if and I think that's where your expertise, right? Why we've got 100,000 agents in the area in North Carolina is everyone's got their own experience and knowledge on it. And I think that's what you got to bring to the table is whether you got to do it beforehand or not. And I don't want you to think of it as a cop-out as far as answering the question goes, but I think you got to take it on a case-by-case basis as far as when those repairs are done. All right, guys. Real quick, I want to get you on to page 48. 48, it's just going to be, yes, sir.
I want to catch up on some of your slides too.
Y'all, I'm like 400 slides behind, so hang tight on that. Maybe I can get you on a different visual. There, let me just put you on that. It's a little cleaner. There. So, I apologize to y'all. I'm getting it down. You're my test subject, so please send on the feedback. Let me go on page 48. 48. This, guys, is just a. You've seen these inspection reports before. This is kind of what they've done is cut and pasted in the book, kind of highlights of an inspection report. I'm just going to go through it on this with you. As you flip through, starting on page 49, you can see where some of these things are. Gradings should be repaired. These are some of the things we're talking about with the due diligence repair request, the vagueness that's written within a report on it. Foundation, you should consult with a structural engineer. I'll just say, if a buyer consults with a structural engineer and spends money on a structural engineer or the seller, what do we got to do, Tim? We got to make sure that that is included on the CD. All right, let's move on. We're moving on to wire fraud on 55. Wire fraud, Jess, do me a favor, flip through these until you get to wire fraud. All right, so let's go to, first of all, we said in the beginning, wire fraud, what? It's only one word, three-letter word?
Really bad.
Okay, we accentuated. So it's bad. Wire fraud, bad. Are we all good with that? If we can just start at the premise that wire fraud is bad. Okay? Let's just look at number one. It says, Anya, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing Anya's name right, uses a free email account, like Gmail, to communicate with her clients regarding the brokerage transaction. She believes that this method of communication is secure because the networks have a password. Y'all, do you think Anya is correct? I don't even want to ask you. Don't even answer that. We know Anya is not correct. We know that the free emails are not, are not secure. Gmail is scanning everything to send you ads out on that. Password protection. Password protected, guy. I'm like you. I've got 4,000 different accounts and probably 2 different passwords. I'm not saying that's the best way to do business on it at all. I get where you're coming from on it. I should be better at it. I should be changing things. Thank you, Jess. Changing things a little bit differently on it. But let's move on. Number 2 talks about brokers, Terrence, buyer's client is under contract. On it 2 weeks before closing, the closing attorney emails Terrence the wiring instructions. for the buyer's settlement funds. And you're going to go through this. I'm not going to read the entire 3 paragraphs of it on it. But on that particular example, what we're talking about is emails going back and forth regarding wire and transfers. I want to pause for a sec on this because I do think it's important. It's something that we've changed here at Home Coach with our brokers on it. It's you get the attorney information sheet. You all know what I'm talking about. The attorney, especially if you're a buyer's agent, seller's agent, listing agent, is that you get the attorney and they want a bunch of information. They want driver's license numbers, social security numbers, bank account routing numbers, all that kind of stuff that's on. And it is personal confidential information. We've been talking for a couple of years now about how the trend is more like HIPAA laws and stuff, is that, hey, we got to be protective. Not only are we protective because of Corona, we got to be protective on their personal information as well, right? Personal information on it. And so when an attorney, I'm just telling you what Home Coach has done, when an attorney says, we do not allow our brokers to fill out the attorney information sheet at all anymore. And so what we tell the attorney is going to have, we don't even send that, we don't even forward it over to our clients on it. We tell the attorney to to contact our clients directly on it. If there's information that is relevant to us to fill out, such as expenditures that we know about, the commission rates, the splits, any of that kind of stuff that is related to our primary business on it, then we'll be able to send that information. Otherwise, the attorney is going to go and contact them directly on it. I think we've talked about a case in the past, and actually, let me, if I'm correct, there's a case actually in here. Let me just see, hold on, bear with me. Yeah, you can flip to page 58. 58 is a case in here, talks about where the real estate licensee and firm was responsible for 85% of a loss on that. I don't need to go into details on that particular case on it, guys, but suffice to know that if you engage in this transfer of information and you aren't protected, you have a chance of being liable for it as well. And that's why we just cut ourselves out of that loop. Let the attorneys do it directly with them. Let me think, on the email, the same thing goes to secure email. Now, a lot of your stuff now, guys, like if you use DocuSign, .loop, e-ink, some of these already have built into them encryption on it. And so a lot of your files might already, and you just need to check with your company and making sure about this, and a lot of your files that you're sending, contracts and stuff, might already be encrypted and stored in a secured location on it. If you're going to try and do that through your own, I guess the conversation is to have, if you're going through your own personal free Gmail account and everything, you need to be careful about that. Because just think about it, and times have just changed. Look, back in the day, it was a one-page listing agreement. Some of you out there, well, let's just say have years in the business, as much as I do, is you have it, and when you were doing a one-page listing agreement, it was 6 page, it was carbon. Y'all remember carbon, like where you had to like etch in what you were going to put, and then things have just progressed over time, and so now we're at a point where, hey, we've been sending stuff by, Yahoo, what are AOL? Some of you still have AOL accounts. You all need to look at that, by the way. And so AOL and Hotmail and all this other kind of stuff, we're sending those things. We've been used to doing it, and now the times are changing. Just like I said, coronavirus, things are changing. Things are changing when it comes to this, and we got to be secure, because if we're sending stuff and let's just say it gets in the wrong hands, just a contract alone, just to offer to purchase, you already, if someone hacked it or got it, they've already know when they're going to be closing on that house, when they're in and out of that house, how much someone is finding, how much they're selling this information for, just alone, just that, and where their forwarding address might even be on this. What we're trying to say in the wire fraud, now the wire fraud, we're talking about the transfer of the money and stuff like this. What I'm also relating it to is just the overall approach to confidentiality on this. A lot of things where I said in the beginning, we just need to slow down as agents. We just need to take our time in moving forward. And I'm not saying you got to take weeks to get these things written up and done. Just taking more time than what we're currently doing, right? An hour or two more. Just make sure your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. Tim.
Well, a lot of this stuff is real estate agents, when we are moving so fast, we have the ability to do a mea culpa or to apologize for something after the fact if we got something wrong or messed something up or said the wrong thing. But when it comes to wire fraud and something that's like this, the stakes are a little higher, and sometimes it's something that is the implications of getting something wrong with wire fraud are much more grave.
There's very little recovery, right? I mean, if someone in Wuhan, China takes $167,000, you ain't getting it back. You ain't getting it back. And that's the problem. And so if you look on page 57, I guess you're going back up a page, on page 57, it just highlights, all I'm showing is it highlights that wire fraud is up 1,100%, $1.6 billion. And those are stats only through 2018, guys. So we're talking about serious dollars on that. I mean, not serious dollars for like $2 trillion, but serious dollars nonetheless. You go on to page 60, just want to highlight, do encrypt your servers, devices, and messages on that. And all right, let's move on. Any questions? Anyone got questions on wire fraud?
Yeah,
Rules to law.
That's specific. Yeah.
Y'all hopping up and down. Y'all doing some jumping jacks, getting yourself.
Remarks about the one-page carbon, though. We had some folks that
I was dating myself. Have fun, y'all. I can't see your comments, so go ahead and have fun at my expense. But I will read them later. So. All right, we're on the law, rules, and updates, guys. Law, rules, and updates on here. So the first thing I want to say, Bob the buyer. Bob Buyer is unhappy with the purchase of his residence. Look, Bob's already bought his house and he's already upset. Bob contends that the electrical system was malfunctioned before his purchase, but he was not informed of the problem. Uh-oh. Bob, of course, is upset. Bob doesn't like the fact he got a house he doesn't like. Electrical system, so he files a complaint against the listing and the buyer's agent. Oh my gosh, sucks to be in this condition. What must Bob do to file a complaint? All right, so I'm just going to go with the assumption that most of you have not gotten a complaint filed against you. But if you had, you're in an elite group of people. And so let me tell you how it's going to work. So you're going to get an orange envelope. An orange envelope about, well, maybe it's this big, maybe it's this big, but it's going to be an orange envelope, and up in the left-hand corner in big, bold, black letters is going to be North Carolina Real Estate Commission. Do not file that under the bills to be dealt with at a later point in time, because you have X amount of days. How many days? Anyone know? 14? Were you going to say?
No, I was just going to admit I don't remember that.
Yeah, well, 14 would be a good day. 14 would be a good number to respond to whatever they're asking of you. Respond. So what's the commission doing? It's called a letter of inquiry. Letter of inquiry. Look, this is what they're doing. They're going, hey, we got a complaint on you, and we just want to know what you got to say. That's how it is. Now, I know y'all are thinking like that ain't what they're saying. It's the government coming on me. They want to take my license, throw me in jail. Maybe that's the end of it, but that's not at least the letter of inquiry's intent. All they want to know is your side of the story. They want to know your side of the story, which goes back to the things we're talking about in the beginning, making sure your file is complete. What does that mean? Well, it means like things like all the receipts. It means like making sure you got the working with real estate agents brochure, which I'm not even going to get into. Well, maybe we're going to get into in a little bit on the working with real estate agents brochure and making sure you got that and you actually know about the working with real estate agents brochure. But you got that, the buyer's agency agreements, you got all that in your file. And then they're going to say to you, hey, tell us your side of the story. And you're going to write up a story. Now here's the thing, I'm just going to tell you, because I do have experience, is if you're going to write up the story, don't write up like, oh, Jimmy John, that buyer, he sucked. He treated my mama poorly, so I went and, he doesn't deserve to get that house. No one cares about all your personal stuff behind all that. What they want to know is just tell us the side of the story about this transaction. We don't want to know your personal feelings about everything. Tell us exactly what happened and back it up with your file of stuff. Say, hey, these are the things that happened. Here's my file. Here's all the stuff. And you send it to the commission. You got 14 days to do that. Commission goes and looks at it. They say they want to make a determination. All right, well, do we have a case? Do we not have a case? Do we need to pursue this any further? That's how it begins, okay? Does it suck? It sucks as far as it's going to take you time to do it. And the better your file and the way that you keep your file together and organized is going to make it a smoother transaction for you. If they don't get all the information, don't be that guy like, they ain't got no jurisdiction to do that. I understand. I know my law. I know the rules. They can't. Y'all, these are attorneys too. They know the rules. They ain't asking you for nothing that they don't think that they have a right to. Just send them the stuff, get them what they need to have, and then move on. Most of these cases are closed out with any action to it anyway, at all. And if you got a problem, let's just rectify the problem. If you have to learn something and complaints against you, let's figure out a way how to get better at it, okay? If it means education on it, if it means whatever, let's figure out a way how to resolve the issue on it. Not every complaint is a bogus complaint. Let's go. Sally Smith has been practicing real estate brokers in Virginia. Okay, this is number 2. Talks about getting the real estate license here. It says she's applied for a North Carolina real estate license based on her Virginia license. This question right here is talking about our out-of-state folks. Here's the thing. We always had a way, and we still do, where someone out of state can come in and get a license if they have an active license at another state, and they say, I want to come into North Carolina. So they come into North Carolina and they can take the test, right? What test do they take? They take the state portion of the exam, 40 questions on it, right? What was the pass rate? Something like, what, Tim? What was the pass rate of the state exam from these folks? Like 3%, right? 3%, something like that, some ridiculous amount. And why? Well, because there's no school teaching these folks. They've got to figure out how to pass this test through YouTube videos or something else. And so, hey, could they be effective agents? And here's where I'm going to say, here's where one of the changes is. Now they can come in and take a post-licensing class. I'm sorry, they can come, I apologize. They can come in as a provisional broker and then take the 3 post-licensing classes, which is now 18 months, right guys? Now, just a reminder, everything is 18 months moving forward on it. The rule goes into effect July 1, but it backs up the last 18 months. So you got 18 months to get your post-licensing. So someone from Virginia can get North Carolina, come in as an active, get their North Carolina license, then they got to start post-licensing. Now, one of the things that I think was a great advancement that the commission made was, you all remember selected topics? It was that catch-all for dumpy stuff that they couldn't think of where else to put. And so they'd have that. We hate, right? Y'all hated it. Anyone who's taken it hated it. I hated it. We all hated it. Now they threw it out. Woo! They threw it out. And now they made a class called North Carolina Law, Rules, Regulations, yada, yada, yada. All about North Carolina law, which is great because now the person who's coming in from Virginia, who never had a chance to figure out what all the laws in North Carolina was, and maybe had a chance of getting a license and practicing, which was not very good for the consumer, now has a course designed totally on the rules and the laws of North Carolina. Thumbs up for the Real Estate Commission. Shout out. It's one of the few times you'll see me shouting out to a government agency in my lifetime, but shout out to them for making that change. It's very good, and it's going to helps everybody out, guys. And then they still got 18 months to finish up the other 2 courses that are out there. What do we say? Oh, question number 3. Question number 3 talks about the provisional broker status that we were just saying was for the 90 hours that you got. You got 18 months to do that. Let's see. We already went through. We already went through all through question 7. All right, let's see. All right, one of the things I want to get into talking about is kind of our BIC supervision of provisional brokers. You go on to page 66.
Do we have any PBs on here?
I'm sure. Hey, if you're a PB, go ahead and send Tim a thumbs up. I mean, we got 100 of you out there. I'm sure we got some PBs out there on it. Now, this little area that I'm going to talk about is kind of dear to my heart on this, is supervisions of provisional brokers. Because here's the thing, and I'm going to use some words that might not necessarily be commission sanctioned, meaning when I say a provisional broker, I say a provisional broker is like the apprentice of the BIC. Right? They're kind of overseeing it. They're hand-holding this person on it, right? So they're kind of, the reason for the BIC in this mix with the provisional broker is to kind of wrap their arm around them and walk them down how to do transactions, how to engage with your clients. Because we all know when you go through pre-licensing is not training someone to do the business, right? It's not telling them how to write up a contract on it. It's not telling them how to fill in the blanks. It's not telling them how to do the CMA, how to get onto MLS, how to do those performances, how to draw your comps. It's not teaching them any of that. That's what the BIC's job. Now, the BIC can delegate that to some other people on it, but at the end of the day, the BIC is responsible for those actions. They're responsible for putting their arm around that apprentice and showing them the way. Okay? Now, yeah, in our industry, the trend is going from, the trend being BICs and firms are trying to get PBs off of the PB status sooner than later. One of that has to do with liabilities, one has to, because of the liabilities, being able to, how much hand-holding do they want to do with the PB. And legit, on the BIC side of it, this industry is changing at a rapid pace. I mean, just think about 2 weeks ago, we didn't have this, right? And now we got this. And we're still trying to figure out, okay, well, how do we do this moving forward, right? And then we got 60 days, and what happens July 1? So these are all things that are changing right now. Just imagine if you just got licensed on March 1st. You just got licensed on March 1st, you're like, what in Hades is happening? And I wouldn't blame you, and you're going to be going to your BIC. Well, this is the part that's talking about supervision of the BIC, of the PB. PBs have got to be supervised, y'all. There's just no question about it, right? We can't let these people, and I don't mean it derogatory, let them out loose, out in the wild, taking care of consumers out there. But if you don't train them, then that is in fact what you and your firm are allowing to happen. Now, I know it kind of sounds like I'm talking towards the BICs on this, but I'm actually saying to you as PBs what you need to expect from your broker in charge, right? You need to expect. Remember, you're a business owner. You're a sole proprietor when you come into here. You need to expect what you're going to be paying for. Some of you got splits. Some of you, some splits are 50, 60%. Some are paying transactions only. Whatever it is, you're paying for the service from that BIC and that firm. And so you need to have some expectations on it, because we already told you earlier that the commission says, hey, look, even though you might have a mentor on it, you're still going to be hired or looked at PBs as doing something wrong if you did it. You can't say, well, my mentor told me to do it the wrong way, so blame them. No, you're going to be held responsible to the standard. Well, that means you've got to be able to go back to your BIC and say, wait a sec, you told me X, Y, and Z to do it. I did it this way. Apparently it's the wrong way to do it, or it's the right way to do it, whatever it is. And that's where I'm going to go to. I just want to go down to the bottom of page 67. There's 4 bullet points down there. First one says, establish written policies and procedures that address training programs. You should have a training program. A training program should not be like, good luck. It doesn't work that way. You need to be able to get some kind of training. Some of it might be online. Some of it might be in the office. Whatever it is, you need to expect to have some training in order to do your job. Number 2, it says delegation of some duties to qualified supervisors. That's where I said that the BIC might be able to delegate it to the mentor, right? Might delegate it to the mentor, but at the end of the day, that BIC is responsible for whatever the actions that mentor. If the mentor is given bad information to the PB, it's on the BIC. The BIC needs to take responsibility for that. Number 3, the existence of communication channels to ensure compliance. Existence of communication channels. That doesn't mean the BIC can say, yeah, my office hours are 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. Contact me. That's not what that means. That means is they have regular business hours. They have regular ways of you being able to communicate to them. Texting, email, phone calls, whatever that is. That BIC also needs to be able to look at your work. They need to be able to see, whether it's online or sitting in front of them, they need to be able to see, okay, I'm getting ready to prepare a contract, or I'm getting ready, here's my CMA. Tell me if the CMA is correct. And then the 4th thing says, evidence, and I think this is an interesting thing, it says evidence of remedial action taken by the BIC when needed. What do you think that means? Tim, what do you think that one line says, evidence of remedial action taken? Let's break it down. It says evidence, right? So we got to have something. We got to have something to show of remedial action. What would remedial action? Jess, what would you think of remedial action? No clue. Gotcha.
Suggestions, things to work. Things to work on after somebody's made some mistakes.
Yeah, you got to have, the BIC has got to have something in place, right? I think the problem what we're trying to address here is what I think in our industry what we're calling the ghost BIC. The ghost BIC, right, in name only, where you've just got someone there just on paper and everyone's in the Wild West. While that might have been good back in 1998, it ain't good today. And we got to have people that are being able to get follow-up and responsibilities of the BIC. If the BIC is going to take on PBs, then you got to follow up on the role and making sure that these PBs are taken care of. All right. Any questions from PBs? Tim, has anyone got any questions on PBs?
No.
Everyone good on that? All right. All right, let's see. Let's move on. Post-licensing education, we're on page 71. I've already talked to you guys about post-licensing. Just making sure you got 18 months now. 18 months to secure all your post-licensing. If you don't do post-licensing in the 18 months, what happens to your license? Send it to Tim. What happens to your license? If you don't do it in 18 months, what happens to, what are they saying? Inactive. Outstanding. Outstanding. Education is active or inactive, right? Education is associated with an inactive status of perfect. Awesome. All right, while I'm on that, might as well, and I'm kind of skipping ahead a little bit. If you don't pay, when do you have to pay by? You know, you all know $45 right now, right? $45 you got to pay. You got to pay the real estate commission. When does that open up? Anyone know? May 15th is when it's going to open up. You're all going to pay online. And if you don't pay, you got to pay by what date?
June 3rd.
Boom! I see it coming in June 30th. Awesome. So you got to pay by June 30th. If you don't pay by June 30th, what happens to your license on July 1? Expired would be the right answer. Thank you. Thank you. Expired would be the right answer. It goes expired. Let me back up on the CE. You got to what date to do your CE? Ladies and gentlemen, you got to what date to do your CE? Now you're already knocking out the GENUP right now. June 10th. Awesome. June 10th. You got till June 10th to do your CE. So you got the GENUP now. You got to go, if you haven't already, you got to go make sure you get at least your 8 hours of elective in. If you don't do it by June 10th, June 10th, it's now, when does your license go inactive? Send it to Tim. When does your license, if you don't do your CE by June 10th, when does your license become inactive? All right, July 1. That's right, July 1, because from June 11th to June 30th, you get to write to all your clients saying how you suck, you didn't get the CE done in time. That's what you get to write them. You got to say, you know what, I was a bonehead and I didn't get it done on June 10th, so your license is going to go inactive on July 1. July 1 pops up, right? And then all of a sudden you go and you're going to have courses like ours that are going to offer courses for you to go ahead and correct that mistake that you just made. And so you do your CE and you accomplish it. You do it online, right? Because we know the Real Estate Commission, they're on top of their game with the legislature. They pass all these new rules that we want in place to make it permanent. And so you guys get to do what we're doing right now online. Is there anything else you need to do? Is there anything else you need to do after you do your CE? If you're a provisional broker, and you now had to make up your CE on July 1. You all with me now? You all had to make up your CE on July 1. Are you active as soon as you complete the CE? Are you active on July 1 once you complete the CE? All right. What'd you say?
Somebody really did get weird. He said you gotta stay 6 feet apart.
Yes, you gotta stay 6 feet apart.
And reapply.
Thank you. Stay 6 feet apart and reapply. Yeah, so PBs, remember, first of all, everybody, when you go inactive or expired, you're dropped off the rolls of the firm that you're on. You're dropped off. And so for PBs, though, remember PBs, you have to be with a firm, right? You got to be with a firm in order to stay active. So for PBs, you don't go automatically active until you re-affiliate. You got to re-affiliate with a firm on that. Same thing goes for the full brokers, okay? Full brokers, though, you have the benefit of being a sole proprietor at that point in time. A sole proprietor, what do they get to do, Tim? You remember, what are you guys, sole proprietors? All you're going to be able, you can't advertise, right? But can you continue to function as an agent? Answer is yes, you could, but you're not with that firm. Now, I'm not going to get into a story because I don't have a whole...
Referrals?
Referrals?
Can you do referrals?
Yeah, you can do referrals as a full broker. But the point being, you need to re-affiliate back with your firm. and the firm doesn't have to re-affiliate you back, right? Let's just say they didn't like you and they were like, whew, so glad they didn't take that CE. Now I don't have to go through and cut them off my rolls. So keep that in mind. All right, let's move forward. Oh, yeah, yes. Slides. My slide master over there. You know what? Well, you know what? I'm going to give you, since I got just a little bit of time before we go on. Is this our last topic? I think it is, Tim, isn't it? All right. So I know I'm not trying to waste your all's time, but I do want to give you an example of, an actual example of someone where they didn't do this correctly, right? Where what happened was, I'm going to give you a case. I was representing, I was representing the seller. That's right, representing the seller on it. And we get an offer to purchase. Tim, you might remember this. You get an offer to purchase, and everything's good. Get the offer to purchase on it. It goes under contract. One of the things, you all know, like in MLS, you got to enter the name in who's the buying agent, right? So one of the little fail-safes that we have at Home Coach, we just make sure, because we got to pay these people, that they're active. Okay, so I go and I put in Jane Doe into the buyer's agency thing, and all of a sudden I get a kickback from one of our staff that says, hey, this person is not affiliated with the firm that's on the offer to purchase contract. And I was like, what? And so I pull it up, I go, and sure enough, this person was active, but they were a sole proprietor. So I go and I reach out to the BIC and say, hey, you don't have, I got this guy who says he's with your firm on this. I can't confirm this, that he's with your firm on it. It's written under you, under your name. Is he with your firm? Either way, I got to make sure that this client is with your firm. Just give me the thumbs up, and I'm going to have to deal with you until you square away this other situation on it. And so then, do you remember this story, Tim? Okay. And then what was the response? Y'all, you won't believe this, but like the response I got from that BIC was, do you remember, Tim?
I thought, if I recall, it was a whole lot of attitude.
It was a whole, he said, I don't have time for this. Now, I think we've had, how much time we had? 3.5 hours together. I think you've gotten to know me a little bit by this point in time. That didn't sit well, y'all. Like, I don't have time, ain't nobody got time for this stuff. So I said, fine. Now let's back up. Now, do we have anything, between the buyer and the seller, does this affect the contract at all? No, right? The offer to purchase is going down the track, right? Two things are going down the track simultaneously normally, right? You got the agency agreement and you got the offer to purchase contract. Each are going down the track together. Do they have to end at the same end line together? No, they don't. The offer to purchase could derail, right? Go off to the side over here, and then the agency agreement could continue on. You still got a listing agreement, even though the offer to purchase is no longer. Same thing goes over here. Offer to purchase. Can an offer to purchase go down the track and an agency agreement get derailed? Absolutely, right? So those two things, but normally, right? 90%, 9 out of 10 times, we'll all go down, we get to closing, boom, everyone's happy, moves along. Well, in this particular case, right, I don't care. I don't really care who this person is going to be on this particular, and I say I don't really care. Yeah, I do care. But what's happening is the offer to purchase is going down the track. Buyer, seller, happy. Everyone's good on that end. On my side, it's like logistics, right? Who's actually representing this person? And at the end of the day, if the buyer thinks they're represented by this other person, that's their thing, right? That's a third party. I want to make sure I'm being truthful and honest and fair to all them. But then I'm just worrying about my client over here. So I say to the BIC, the BIC sends me that thing. I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. I go to say, I'm going to put it in your name into the MLS. Now this is going to be important, guys, on this particular thing. You're going to love this because it's going to talk about money, your money. So when the MLS, we go and fail-safe pops up. It says the BIC is not with the firm. What? The BIC is not with the firm either. The BIC is a sole proprietor. Now you all, because of what we just talked about, you might be getting a flavor of what has happened here. So I don't have anyone who's a member of the firm supposedly on the offer to purchase. So I go to the MLS, I go, hey, what am I supposed to do here? You know what does the MLS say, Tim? Do you remember? No. Yeah, they didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to do, so they go across the hall. They go across the hall to talk to the Association of Realtors. This is in Raleigh, y'all. And so the Association of Realtors go, I don't know what to do. And so they go and they have a little powwow chat with the Real Estate Commission. Hey, these people, blah, 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 they find out, make sure of all the details. And here's the thing. If a firm doesn't have a BIC, and these two people aren't members of the BIC, of the firm, what does the MLS do? Because they had to make this determination. Do you remember, Tim? What was their determination? The MLS said, hey, guess what? You don't have a BIC. Your firm can't be a member of the MLS. Firm can't be a member of the MLS. They went back to July 1, took away all their sales on that. Sure enough, you all are like, dang, right? I'm like, whatever. I got to keep moving along on this particular thing. So if they don't have, if they're not members of the MLS, then do I owe them money? Meaning our firm. Does our firm owe them money? Go ahead and send Tim a yes or no. Do we owe them money if they're not members of the MLS?
Mixed bag. Probably a little more no's than yeses.
More no's than yeses?
Yeah.
Colleen, what'd you say? Yeah, so, okay, what ties us with the money? Y'all, look, there's nothing that ties a firm to you and the money unless you're a member of that MLS, right? That's our agreement. That's our cooperating agreements. I have to sign an agreement as a broker in charge of a firm. Each of you agents has to sign, brokers. We all agree, look, we're all part of this club. We agree to pay however we offer to pay it in there. That's our agreement. And any time there's an issue with that, we're going to all work it out together in our little club over here in arbitration. That's how that all works. If you're someone, say, and I'm in Raleigh, you're at the coast, and you're not a member of our MLS, and you want to buy property and get paid in North Carolina, what do you have to do to ensure you get paid? Bueller? Bueller? Bueller?
Type of compensation.
Yeah, you got to have some kind of compensation agreement. You got to have something in writing that says, I agree to pay you. You do that in advance, right? You don't want to show a house beforehand, so you get it. It's the same thing we would do with a for sale by owner, right? Exact same thing. You got to do it because we don't have an agreement unless it's written. Okay? Commercial people figure this all out. Everything's negotiated on the commercial side. So here we have on the MLS, if you're not an MLS, then we don't as a firm owe it to you. Okay? And so they did so here we go. I hadn't heard from that bank, hadn't heard from them at all regarding this. The buyer's agent, supposed buyer's agent, was working on this thing throughout the thing. They were doing their job. Now, when it comes to buyer's agency agreement, the first thing it says is we're going to try to obtain the money from who? The other cooperating company, right? But at the end of the day, if they don't get it from the cooperating company, what does the buyer agree to the buyer agent to do? To compensate them. Right? So if I don't pay, meaning the firm doesn't pay, then they would have to go to who? The buyer on that, right? Now, can this thing still close? Absolutely, right? We're getting there 3 days before closing. You're going to like this. 3 days before closing, 3 days before closing. Guess who I get a phone call from? Anyone? Anyone? The BIC. Why do I get a call from the BIC? Because the BIC just got the CD that showed he wasn't getting paid. You all with me on that? He said he wasn't getting paid. He wanted to be like, hey, why ain't I getting paid? I'm like, I don't know ain't nobody got time for you. That wasn't as mean as that. But I said, hey, we've been reaching out. Now you're reaching out to me. Show me where I owe you the money. You owe me the money. Well, at the end of the day, y'all, and maybe we don't want to end this way, but at the end of the day, we do like teaching some lessons sometimes. And so at the end of the day, we did not pay him, y'all. But I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you what I did. What I did was I said to him, what I did was I said, you know what, here's what you're going to do. And I showed him a way what he had to do, and we ended up compensating him, actually. We ended up compensating the buyer's agent directly is what we ended up doing. We wanted to bypass that agent or the firm getting this cut out of it. What I want to tell you is how this all happened. And how it all happened was that the BIC was supposed to have paid for the fees before June 30th, and the BIC didn't pay them. And so on July 1, all of them went expired. On July 5th, he paid off all the fees. The Real Estate Commission sent them notices saying that they don't have a BIC in place. The BIC apparently didn't have time to open those. And so they went on for 5 months without opening that, and they all stayed as sole proprietors. The gist of the story is, guys, there's always some kind of paperwork that you got to do at the end in order to make this stuff compliant. Okay? So when you go inactive or you go expired, make sure you fill out the paperwork and get hooked back up with your firm. And I think let me go through. Any questions on that stuff? Anyone on that? Oh, let's see. I think we talked about this. Post-licensing. Questions, guys. Ask me any questions you got. Tim, you got any questions on there?
No, but I know when I've taught this in class, there's inevitably some folks who have very specific licensing questions, post-licensing questions for them and with the new rules and how it begins. So everybody who's in that mode that's still a PB, you should have heard from the commission and you should have everything clear at this point on when your post-license needs to be completed. I know that the commission and folks down, they were very clear that they were getting an early jump on all of this. So if you do have some questions that are very specific to your situation, if you're inactive but you want to still complete your post-license stuff, encourage you to reach out to the commission directly, the education folks there, so that you don't run into a situation like Steve's talking where you have a lot more work on the back end of this if you let it go.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks for bringing that up. I do want to bring you guys to page 87. 87 talks about BIC eligible status on that and broker in charge designations on it. Talks about being BIC eligible. I think if I read the stats correctly from the commission, it looked like 20% of all active licensees were BIC eligible folks already. And that to me is pretty impressive on that number, meaning that folks are going out and getting that extra designation out there to be BIC eligible. And what's BIC eligible? So you got BIC, someone who's managing over people, and BIC eligible means you're eligible to oversee people and running a firm on it. And so it says on page 87, talks about obtaining BIC eligible status. You got to be a full-time broker on it, right? You got to have 2 years experience, 2 years full-time experience over the last 5 years. Okay. Then you got to go and take a 12-hour broker course on it. And after you complete that course, and then you fill out the appropriate paperwork in order to become BIC eligible, from that point forward, you need to start taking the BIC up courses, all right, to maintaining that eligibility. And the best part out of the rules that I think were done, I think it was a couple, time is passing me by quickly here, I can't remember. It was a few years ago where what happened is now you get to retain that BIC eligibility status on it just as long as you keep taking the BIC up course. So just make sure you keep doing that. Otherwise, you're going to have to retake the course over again. Oh, I wanted to tell you, expired. It just came to my mind on here. Expired. If it's expired, July 1, you pay what? Twice what the current fee is. Current fee is $45. So you're going to pay $90 on July 1. You've got to do that. You have until December 31st to pay $90, right? $90. But after December 31st, then what do you have to do? Tim, anyone, do you remember? What do you have to do? You got to pay your $90, and now you're going to have to take a 30-hour post-licensing course, guys. And here's the thing, and you're all like, what? And yeah, and it's actually a good thing. I know it's a hassle. You think, look, first of all, pay your $45 and you don't have to worry about any of it. Second, you got another 6 months, you just pay $90 and don't worry about it. But one of the things that I think the thrust that you're getting from the commission, and I think it's a good thrust on it, is what they're trying to do is because I said again, we're circling back around, it's about education. It's all about education on it. And so if you don't, it's been now, you don't pay and your license has been expired for 6 months. They're saying, hey, you got to get re-educated. Meaning you've got to go through and take some more education, get yourself squared away. Because like I said, if there's not been a better example than the last 2 weeks, our industry is flipping around quickly. And we got to stay on top of it in order to serve the public, guys. Awesome. Any other questions before we wrap this up?
No, like I said during that first break, if you guys need a little break from the news or scouring your town for toilet paper, please, when you get that
Say it.
invitation for evaluation.
Is your mic on?
Oh, wow.
Say
That
it.
sounds a lot better. So folks, while you are needing a break from the coronavirus news or scouring your town for toilet paper, when you get that evaluation invitation, please take a little time and give us some constructive feedback on this so that we can tighten everything up and kind of raise the bar for us even internally here with Home Coach.
Yes, we definitely want your opinions, guys, your feedback on it. You should be getting something, like I said, within the next, or Tim said, the next 24 to 48 hours on a survey from us. Also, we're going to be transmitting over to the commission tomorrow morning your completion of this, guys. Thank you so much for being a part of us on this first time doing it. We really appreciate your business. Take care, and we'll see you next year.